So I'm definitely a little bit late to the party, but considering the brand new Mercurial is edging closer and closer, it seems like a time to look at what we have right now. Is this any good? Because while it has its positives and while it's something that I have clearly been wearing quite a lot, this could be one of the best Mercurials that's ever been made for the most number of people. But does that make it less Mercurial? So as you can see here, I have 3 different pairs of the current generation Mercurial, 2 Vapors, 1 Superfly that I have been rocking for the last year. But what do I mean when I say that it's not a Mercurial? Well, it is, obviously, but they've made some amendments, some adjustments, and some changes to this boot, which in some respects make this a better boot. This is a boot that you, whoever you are, down the camera there, looking at this, should and can go out and buy. But historically, the Mercurial's not been that boot. It's been an incredibly popular boot, but certainly not one that was designed for everyone. It just so happened that everybody wanted it. The best place to start to explain this is with the fit, which is just wider than pretty much any Mercurial that I have ever tried before. The Mercurial historically is quite a narrow fitting boot, and if you had a wider foot, I would always say avoid the Mercurial. That is not the case with the current generation of Merc. You can absolutely wear this if you have a wider foot. Now, if you have a very wide foot, I'm still not recommending these, but they are definitely going to be okay if you just have a foot on the wide side. And similarly, if you have a normal width foot or a narrower foot, these are going to fit you great. So your regular Mercurial users, the guys who go back to it every single year, this is going to fit you. Your people who've always wanted to wear a Mercurial, but you've always found that they're uncomfortable because maybe your feet are too wide, you can wear this too. But does that take away from the essence of a Mercurial? Should a Mercurial be slim, tight, streamlined, and not made for everybody? It's a question we'll kind of keep answering as we get along in this review of what is, at the end of the day, still a really fantastic boot, whatever the philosophical thinkings on what a Mercurial should be are. Continuing with the fit, the toe box on this isn't too low and pointy, which has absolutely been a trend in boots recently that's driving some people mad, but it is low enough that you still feel quite nimble on the ball, quite nimble when you're kind of cutting, running, making swift changes of direction. And in terms of the size that you should buy, your normal Nike size is essentially the correct answer. So let's go back to that talk of cutting, changing direction, and generally being fast. That's what Mercurial's all about, right? Being fast. And Nike have reworked the entire outsole in order to make you feel faster in many directions. This isn't just about straight line speed anymore. This is about, can you be agile? Can you cut and change direction? And I really like the stud shape on the FG boot. However, as you can see here, I'll put some pictures on the screen instead. I have the SG Pro, I have an SG anti-clog, and what I was using as my FG pair, my Superflies, I have recently had converted for a video which is coming very soon, where I'm going to compare all of these 3 boots, so do get subscribed for that. But I've actually had these converted by bootman.ie, and I absolutely appreciate his work. It is absolutely top drawer. So I'll put pictures up of the FG sole plate and those tri-star studs that I'm talking about, because I have gone SG crazy. These have been my go-to SG boots for the year. So again, we ask the question, this is no longer super aggressive straight line speed. It is about multi-directional speed. It's about braking. It's about being able to slow down. That's what this section here, this kind of like brake area, is all about. Is that particularly Mercurial. Is it better as a general boot? Yeah, possibly. You've got more options. Along with the wide fit that suits more people, now you've got a stud pattern that is more useful for more scenarios. So overall, you're looking at a better package. But are we starting to strip away what makes a Mercurial a Mercurial? While we're on the sole plate, and before we get to obviously the very exciting Air Zoom unit, let's just have a look at the snapback and the responsiveness. The snapback on this is good. It isn't and wasn't at the time the best on the market, but it is very good. And overall, I can't really complain. I can say it again though, it's not the most aggressive on the market, which is historically a landmark of Mercurials, but this is more friendly, it's more user-friendly, and it's going to be more comfortable for a lot more people. People don't always want that crazy snapback that you're going to get from other boots sometimes. They want something that's going to be usable by everybody all the way through at Sunday League. You don't have to go crazy. And this does a great job without being overwhelming or overpowering. And then, as I mentioned, let's get these ones. If we take the insole out, I'll do my best to show you an internal shot of this. I don't know how I'm going to do it from this camera. I'm going to hold it here and talk and put some B-roll in. You can see there is an Air Zoom unit. It runs from around here all the way up to the top of the boot. This is essentially a pocket of air. And this is the first regular release Nike boot that has had this in, that runs this far anyway, all the way down the boot. And you can notice it. It does do something. I get the impression that the idea was for you to feel like you were propelled off at great speed, but that's not really what it does for me. It does make me feel a little more kind of bouncy. It maybe does add a little bit more comfort, and overall I think it adds to the responsiveness of the boot. I feel a little bit more responsive with this very kind of solid air cushion under the front section of the boot. So I'm not really feeling more aggressive, more pushed forward and faster, but I am feeling a little bit more nimble, and overall, let's get into it now, a little bit more comfortable, because also this is a very comfortable football boot. A very comfortable football boot for everybody. Now, I can't sit here and say that a hallmark of a Mercurial is it being uncomfortable, but I feel like there was like a rite of passage. If you wanted to wear Mercurials, you had to go through something, especially those earlier models. You had to go through something to earn your right in the Mercurials. You just don't have to do that anymore. You can jump straight into these. Now, for the break-in time, there is a little bit of break-in time here. You do have to kind of break down the upper a little bit. I would say you need a couple of sessions in them to really start to get them broken into the soft point where you want them to be. And that is fine. And it's also a trade-off I'm absolutely willing to make because of the way that this upper is structured in terms of what it gives you in responsiveness from the upper particularly, and lockdown. I think the lockdown and the responsiveness in this boot from heel to toe is fantastic. It has been amazing for me. So the upper itself is Vapor Posit Plus, which is an upgrade from the previous generation, which is right here. So this was the original Vapor Posit construction, and now we have Vapor Posit Plus. And the most interesting thing about this for me anyway, and you can kind of see it through this particular white boot a lot better, is these sections here. So this is an incredibly strong, high tensile material that is providing a lot of the lockdown and structure. There's one back here too in the heel. And what this is doing is it's just pushing your foot down into the boot and into everything so that it doesn't move. It's essentially providing you lockdown, and it's an internal cage, but it just seems to be done a little bit differently to a lot of ways I've seen it done before, and I really like it because it's super effective. And of course, the benefit of having a cage is that all of the areas that don't have this thin cage in them can be a lot more flexible and a lot more pliable. So this is more of a, it almost feels like a mesh as opposed to what was on the previous Vaporposit. It feels less synthetic-y, but it also doesn't feel like a knit. It feels more mesh, even though it is Vaporposit synthetic. And with that construction, allowing it to be that little bit softer in between all of those structural elements, and then the way that it has been built with basically a top coating just on the top of this Vaporposit Plus, which I do feel like feels like a mesh, means you get all of this texture on the ball, which I really like. I just think it adds a little bit of extra grip on the ball, and it's a really smart way, without having to add anything extra, of just giving you a little bit of extra touch. However, I complain about this a lot with all brands. This colorway in particular has a giant Nike swoosh that runs around it. Looks great. For the aesthetics, we love it. However, that covers so much of like the contact area where this grip is with a slippy surface. It makes no sense to me. This boot in particular, this is obviously doesn't have that. The Air logoing down here doesn't create a slippy surface. This is all integrated, and it gives you that more grippy, textured feeling on the ball, which I really like and really appreciate. Again, is that particularly Mercurial? Yeah, it probably is. Mercurial has a history of adding little elements, whether that be textures from earlier Vapors, like maybe the Vapor 8 with kind of different kind of fuzzy textures, and then all the way through, obviously, is more prominent in things like the Vapor 11. There's always some kind of texture element on a lot of the Vapors. It might not be the most pronounced thing in the world. You're not getting striking elements like you'd get on a T90 laser, but you are getting a little bit of help on the ball. It's not designed to be the most incredibly barefoot boot in the world, and Vapors never, to me, or at least not in recent times, they haven't been that. They offer a very direct touch on the ball, they offer a very firm touch on the ball, but it's not sharp. It's not super sharp and super stingy, and that's even more the case with this particular boot, which goes back again to my point that this really is a boot for everybody. And I don't want to frame this like it's a negative thing. I kind of am, but it's not. I'm just saying that Nike have taken the Mercurial. They've taken the DNA of a Mercurial. They've looked at the market, which is full of thousands and thousands of people rocking Mercurials and shoving their feet into them and forcing themselves to wear Mercurials because that's what they want to wear, because that's what CR7 wears, because that's what Mbappe wears. Those are the boots they want. They're the best looking boots. They are the pinnacle of what people want from a football boot. So they're forcing themselves to wear them. So why not make a boot that just works better for everybody? And that's exactly what they've done. Have you lost maybe a little bit of Mercurial magic in the process? Maybe. Maybe they're not a crazy, aggressive speed boot. Maybe they don't have that absolutely mad Mercurial feeling that you might have occasionally been able to find, or even a mad speed boot feeling that you might find elsewhere. But they're just a really great boot for everybody. There's so few people that if they came to me and went, should I buy a Mercurial, that I would say no to. Like, yeah, absolutely. Pick them up. Get yourself a good deal. And especially now that the Mercurial is going to be more widely available, there are more colorways available, there are colorways in sale, you can get yourself a really great deal on a pair of the current generation Mercurials, and in my view, without question, they are better than the previous generation, if nothing else, just for the fact that they are less plasticky. There's less of a plasticky feeling than you got on the previous gen. If you do want to pick up a pair of the current generation Mercurials, please hit the link down in the top pin comment or in the description, and that'll take you through where you can buy them, and it helps support the channel, but doesn't change how you buy anything. I was very much appreciated. Thank you. A lot of people ask, so I also want to cover Superfly versus Vapor. A lot of people ask, I don't want to make a whole video out of it because quite simply, All we're talking about in terms of difference is the Flyknit collar. So this is a Flyknit centerpiece. So the back of the boot is Flyknit, the rest of it is Vaporposit, and you've got a Flyknit centerpiece here running up into kind of a small little collar on the Vapor and into a DF collar on the Superfly. The Flyknit on here is actually really nice. It's really high quality. My personal preference for a DF collar boot from Nike is the Lunar 2. Really, really love that. But aside from that, these are really nice collars, but which one should you buy? Quite simply, whichever one is cheaper or has the colorway that you particularly want, because this is more expensive, always is. So there's no need to buy it for more money because of the collar. You just buy the Vapor and happy days. But if you want to buy the Superfly, they're the same boot. There's really no difference. And if you want to check out my review on that Lunar 2, then click this video right here.